Welcome, dear students, in the next chapter. And this is going to be a very important chapter because we are going to cover how you are going to land a job as a Golang engineer. This chapter is not specific for Golang jobs. It can basically reflect on any type of engineering job, but yeah, it can actually reflect for a lot of things in life, right? For any kind of job, basically, but specifically for engineering. So before we actually go into cover in these topics, in different topics, we need to do a little bit of an overview, right? Because there are a lot of steps involved in landing a job, and I was on two sides of the spectrum, right? I was an engineer myself. I did a lot of interviews. I failed a lot of interviews, but I also nailed a lot of interviews because special tricks, and I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna teach you them all. But I'm also was a CTO of my own company, and I did a lot of interviews myself. So I basically know two sides of the spectrum, which is very important, right? So what I'm gonna do here, basically, let me open up a simple editor, stir live, right? So I'm gonna do a little recap, right? So basically, if we're gonna land a job, we need to ask ourselves, what are the different steps here, right? So let's make a title here, landing a job, right? Just like that, landing a job, the steps. So the first step we're gonna have is you're going to create a resume, right? You are going to create a resume. That's where it all starts, right? You're going to create a resume. You're gonna basically sum up your experiences, right? We're gonna cover that because most of the time your resume is going to be too standard, right? Because there is a big problem with these resumes. Why? Because the second step is you're going to mail one, right? You're going to mail your resume for a specific job to a specific company, right? That's what you're gonna do. So, and you're not the only one, right? Because there are a lot of layoffs these days, which is good, right? Because it was basically oversaturated. Companies were basically raking in too much money from VCs. That's completely stopped. Inflation and all that stuff, a bad economy. And what happens? All these people are getting laid off, so they're back on the job market. So if there is now a job for free, people are gonna send resumes like madmen. So that's already a big problem, because the question we need to ask ourselves here is, how are you going to stand out? That's a question. How are you gonna do that? If you're just gonna send a resume, and most of the time you're maybe not going to have a lot of experience yet, how are you going to stand out? That's where the first problem comes in, right? So the third thing, what's going to happen is you're basically going to have a meeting. If that's all right? If they selected you, you're going to have a meeting with the HR, right? Big problem. That's a big problem that's going to shoot you not in the foot, but that you need to overwin, because the HR most of the time, they don't know anything about technical coding, right? They don't know. They maybe are a little bit briefed, but they don't know it in depth. So you can be as good as you want, and that's the big problem. That's the big problem in landing a job. You can be so good at your job. You can be such a good Golang engineer. If you fuck up in all of these steps, you're not going to land a job. You're not going to land a job. It's all about marketing. It's all about marketing, and it's all about basically tricking the company you're basically want to apply for into some tricks, right? So you're going to have a meeting with HR. Problematic, because they're going to ask you, what is your motivation? What is your this? Are you blah, blah, blah? All these stupid questions just to get an overview of you, if you potentially are a good fit, right? So the main thing they're gonna do here is to check if you are a good fit as a person, right? As a character, as a personality, maybe as a personality, right? That's the first thing they're gonna do. Based on you're gonna talk, based on you're gonna answer questions, simple questions like hobbies and all that stuff. They're gonna check, are you a fit in the team, or are you a good fit as a personality in the team? That's what they're gonna do, right? Actually, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna make this boom like that. Actually, That's fine. Meeting with HR. Most of the time, meeting with HR is not a big of a deal. Everybody can basically kind of do this okay, right? Unless you fuck up, but most of the time it's going to be fine. What they're going to do is they're going to make you, this is for 90% of the time, they're going to give you an assessment. Assessment, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to give you an assessment. Problematic. Because I'm going to show you something. After we finished this thingy here, I did a lot of assessments and I fucked up a lot of them. Not because they were bad, because I was over-engineering them. So that's the thing. You're going to do an assessment. Probably most of the time it's going to take you a week or something. You're going to have a week of time to do this stuff. So yeah, that's something like that. After the assessment, probably the CTO or the lead dev are going to check this assessment, and based on that thing, they're going to basically give you a meeting. Probably most of the time it's going to be the lead dev or some kind of higher order person in the company, technical lead dev, technical lead. Sometimes it's also a CTO. That can also be step 6, right? I know it's annoying. It's so annoying, right? That's why I don't like to work for companies anymore. No, I built my own stuff. It's so annoying, right? Who has time to do all this stuff? But hey, we need to start somewhere, right? And I'm going to lead you through it. So you're going to do a meeting with the lead dev. And that's very important because they are going to try. It depends. But in my personal experience, CTOs are fine. Because CTOs are directly tied to the company, right? If you are a CTO, if I was a CTO for Revenue, it was my company. I had shares, right? So I was directly emotionally attached to the company. So if I have an interview with somebody, my goal was not to basically break them down, to put him down, but technical leads, lead developers in bigger companies, they don't have any emotionally attached. They are not emotionally attached to the company. The only thing they want to do is bring you down, to ask you very, very hard questions that they probably already looked up or something, but most of the time they are not going to know them themselves, but they're going to ask you these nifty special questions to trick you and break you down. That's my personal experience, right? Questions that most of the time do not matter. If you have such a question, you need to make sure you do not go into detail in these questions. I'm going to tell you a story, right? Not so long ago, I had, I think 2 years ago or something. No, just after Revenue, because I stopped working at Revenue because I hated to be a CTO. It was also a VC-funded company. I'm never going to make a VC-funded company again. I'm going to bootstrap it all myself, like I do with my brand right now. But I was applying for a Golang blockchain job, right? And I had this interview with 2 developers, and they were pretty nice guys. But they were asking me all these difficult questions about blockchain and all that stuff. And they were asking me all of that. And I was answering how I answer questions. And at a certain point of time, this developer, this lead developer, or the guys that were interviewing me, he said to me, Anthony, it feels that you can answer everything. It feels like you know everything here. But when I ask you to go into detail, it seems you cannot answer it. And you try to move yourself around there. It seems like you know everything, but the detail seems missing because you don't go into detail. And my answer, and this is true, this is exactly how it happened. My answer was to this guy, I said, you're right. I said, you're right. I'm not going to detail because I'm only a specialist at a certain topic when I need to be a specialist. Because you cannot know everything into detail. But when I need to, I will. And this guy did not know what to answer. He was completely flabbergasted. He was there like, what the fuck that guy just said to me? The game was over. I was already won, right? There's nothing he could do about that. He was completely done. This guy he had no clue who he was dealing with, but he was dealing with me. And I'm on a complete other level. Because that's what I told you. It does not matter how much you know. It matters how much you can market yourself. You know what I mean? It's very important. And you can keep this trick in mind. You're never going to learn this. Nowhere on the internet is people going to teach you what I'm going to say to you about my experiences. And if you think about that, it's very important because in the real life, it is blockchain or Golang or backend systems are so diversified that you cannot know everything. The only thing you need to be is a specialist when you need to be one. It's easy. If you need to know something about consensus algorithms, well, you're gonna specialize yourself in consensus algorithms at the point you need to be, right? That's important. That's a good developer. I want to hire a developer that knows where to find things and can specialize himself in that topic when the moment arrives to be one. Keep this in mind, because this can be an answer to everything you cannot answer on your interview. Let that sink in. Write that down. All right. So you're gonna have a meeting with the lead dev. They're gonna ask you all this detailed stuff which does not actually matter. And you're gonna try to answer it, or you're gonna try to keep at the high level. Do not go into the low level ever, because you're going to basically shoot yourself in the foot, right? You're going to corner yourself. Don't do it. Try to wiggle yourself out of it, with maybe a potential answer could be what I just told you, right? All right, meeting with the lead dev. After that, it could be a potential sixth step, which is going to be if the meeting was with the lead dev, you're going to do the meeting with the CTO, right? And that's most of the time. If you going to have a meeting with the CTO, what's going on here? Potentially meeting with the CTO if you do not, if that was not step 5 already, right? A meeting with the CTO is very chill. That's a good meeting, because meeting with the CTO most of the time you're already done. You already have the job most of the time if you do it with the CTO, right? And after that, it's basically what you're going to do is going to discuss salary, I don't know how to write that. It doesn't matter. You're going to discuss salary. It's basically job is already done, right? Basically, most of the time in here, I'm going to do that. Job is already landed, right? Most of the time, right? Most of the time, especially here, it's going to be the deal is done, right? The deal is done. If you're going to discuss salary, deal is done. Discussing salaries, is there something I want to discuss? I need to show you or let you guys know. Depends. I can imagine that you're going to be so happy that you have the job, and you're going to basically do not discuss salary. You're just going to take the average salary they're going to give you. That's fine. That's fine, because I am from the opinion that you're going to need to prove yourself, right? It doesn't matter. That's how I work as a CTO. I have a complete different interviewing process. I basically do not do all these steps. If I like you, just by talking about completely not tech-related things, if I like you, if I can see that you're motivated, I'm going to hire you. We're going to work together. And if it's not working out, I'm going to fire you. That's the process. Because I know I know why, right? Why? Because what I'm going to teach you is witchcraft, right? I'm going to teach you witchcraft, and I know that, so that's why I don't do these interviews, because I know very smart developers, they will basically trick you into every step, and the way they're actually going to fuck up is in the actual working together thing, right? Because if you think about that, how can you increase the chances you're going to land a job? How are you going to do that? Well, you can say whatever you want, right? Right? Your resume, step 1 here, you can put on your resume whatever you want. You can delete from your resume whatever you want. 2, you're going to make an email, right? You need to make a very good email. And then you can do what you can write on this email whatever you want. Your motivation, you can be, even if you're not motivated, or even if you have no for example, you're going to work for a company in finance, for example, fintech, right? You're going to apply for a job in fintech, but you don't have fintech experience. Who cares? Don't tell that. Maybe you have sucked something out of your finger. I swear to God, guys, this sounds a little bit malicious or trickery, but that's what I did all the fucking time. Right? If I applied for a fintech job, I was already a fintech specialist. I was the man. I was a fintech specialist. So what you're going to do is you're going to basically scope or team everything around fintech for that specific job, even though you have no experiences. But who cares? If you get hired, if you going to educate yourself for a couple of days before the interview with all fintech related stuff, you're going to be a fintech specialist, right? Of course, they're going to ask you, where did you work before? You're going to have a problem, but I'm going to tell you some other stuff. And this is actually, you're going to maybe say, what the fuck is Anthony telling here? But sometimes, and like I said before, life is for the people that get things done. You know what I mean? If you're going to be honest all the fucking time, you're going to be left alone with the breadcrumbs. What I did sometimes is I gave some references to people I know, and they pretend they were some kind of company boss, and they say, "Hey, Anthony was a good employee," even though I didn't work there, even though there was no company there, something like that. You know what I mean? It's important. It's important. Why? Because let's say you don't have any experience in Golang or in fintech, so you have no references. Who's going to hire you? Who's going to hire you? Let's say you had a job or two, and maybe you had some conflict with the manager, which I had all the time. Maybe you had some conflict with a manager. Are you going to give that as a reference? Are they going to be positive about you? I don't think so. They don't care about you. They don't give a shit about you. They're just going to tell you, oh, we had some conflicts. Watch out for him. His temperament is kind of crazy. So you're fucked, right? So you're fucked. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to increase your chances? Well, you need to come up with creative solutions. But very important is, you can trick them into being a specialist, right? You can trick them into being some experienced developer. The problem is that you're going to walk your talk. Once you're in your job, you need to make sure that you spend all your fucking free time to make up. And that's what I did. And that's how I grew and made a lot of money as engineering, is because I tricked myself. I tricked the company into hiring me, but I also spent all my fucking free time to make up the tricks, if that makes sense. Sometimes I was no distributed specialist in the beginning, although I told them I was specialized in distributed systems. I made sure that all my free time went into getting the company, getting to know the product they're making so fucking good, and that I was a specialist very soon. You know what I mean? I made up for my trickery. That's very important. That's very important. All right, so this is basically the steps. So when the next videos, we're going to basically dissect this a little bit. I'm going to show you some stuff. Like I said, I'm not going to hold your hand, right? I'm just going to give you a lot of tips and tricks here, and I can swear to God, if you do these tricks, if you do exactly what I did, you're going to end up where I did, right? It is what it is, right? Like I said, I'm telling you stuff that nobody's going to tell you because they may seem a little bit over the top, but who cares? Do you want to have the best? Do you want to have the best life for your family? Do you want to make it as an engineer? Do you want to make money? Do you want to grow? That's very important, right? If you want to grow as an engineer and you want to have a lot of experiences, you need to work for these companies. Do you want that? Well, then you need to increase your chances, right? And you can trick them, but you're also going to make up for your tricks. So by the end of the day, you're going to be break even, right? You trick them, but you're going to make up. So eventually, you're going to be the guy you said you were. That's important. See you in the next one.